What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. Since my tier list video, I've seen a lot of people comment in regards to why don't you upload a video in regards to a Rumble tier list. And the main reason for that is, there are a couple of reasons. One of the predominant things is I don't own a lot of the Rumble rare recruits to make a valid judgment on whether characters are ultimately really, really good or not. Like, yes, you see them, you can go up against them, you can see other people use them and stuff, but it is a bit different when you get to team build with that type of character. So I don't have a lot of these Rumble rare recruits, a lot of these Rumble legends to fully abuse, which is why I don't feel comfortable making a Rumble tier list. However, there is a community tier list predominantly created by Naito. This is a great resource for you guys to go ahead and use to understand, I guess, the meta of One Piece Treasure Cruise's Pirate Rumble, and not only just normal Pirate Rumble, but also Grand Party. We're going to go through this Rumble sheet. I've made a couple of videos about this in the past, but this is more of like an update for you guys, because I know, we're heading right towards the New Year celebration. This is a good time to get up to date with all you need to know about Rumble before we head into the new year 2026 and kind of seeing what is going to change with the New Year celebration. Now, another thing that I also wanted to discuss is in regards to the introduction with the most recent update. They introduced the Rumble Limit Break, or Rumble Level Limit Break system, where you could use those special rainbow keys to unlock Rumble Limit Breaks for some of your units. And I also want to discuss a little bit, once we get into this video, in regards to which characters are the most worthwhile, okay? So, first of all, we have the Rumble sheet here. These are the most recent characters, and they obviously have a should you pull for each of the more recent units. I believe this gets updated monthly. So this is in regards to Rob Lucci and Zoro. We have the new units, Big Mom Kaido, Momo Yamato, obviously pretty much skipped, they're not really that good. However, we get to Caesar, and I've played against the single, boss, the computer-generated team against the Master Caesar Clown, and it's a crazy team. Caesar is a very disruptive character, and I think that he is going to be a mainstay for a lot of teams moving forward. The only real issue with him is that you have to build, because you really want to build with his Rumble ability. You want his special ready to go at the start of the quest, which means you need 3 or more Scientist, Logia, or Zoan types in order to get it to work. Obviously, Rob Lucci can work really well. He himself is a Scientist, so you definitely probably want Rob Lucci. He's one of the better Dex units. We'll go through it as we go along here. But anyways, let's go ahead and actually move a little bit forward here into meta team comps. So remember, this is a community-based thing. This is predominantly made by Naito. So my assumption is this is his opinion. And again, I don't feel comfortable making a direct tier list for each of these units because I don't own all of the units. But I think this is a good opportunity to kind of break down each of these characters here. So in terms of OP teams, they list Quick as one of the better teams in the game. And even though, yes, Quick is the predominant color, you obviously have some outliers in Pika and Blackbeard, and this is just going to show these characters are just so annoying and so good that they kind of just slide into any team so long as you have the classes in mind. Blackbeard, you need powerhouse characters in order to get him to work. Pika is focusing on buffing driven and fighter characters, but it's more of at least the more current setups in Rumble are more based on having, number one, big damage dealers, obviously a huge positive, and number two, having very disruptive debuff characters. If you're able to build a team with that, the team is probably going to be very good, and you'll be seeing that as a common theme in a lot of Rumble teams these days. You've got disruptors in Blackbeard, Pika, and S-Snake here. And then on the shooter team is disgusting, and this is specifically a lot of strength units here. But you got the big damage dealers in Lucci and Luffy by themselves are huge damage dealers, and you've got disruptive units in Usopp and Lilith, S-Snake, and then you got good supporter units in the Suru and also in the Mars. Kuma, obviously a fantastic damage dealing unit as well. Alright, so we have the next one here, which is a Cerebral Revolutionary Army team. I have seen some footage of this team going around. This team is very good. However, I wouldn't classify it as OP. For the main reason is this team has horrific defenses. The defenses with this team are so bad. A lot of the time you'll be at 0 defense or in the negatives for defenses. So enemies' normal attacks are just going to be pinging away at you. This team with investments, very, very good. However, without investments, if you're like hypothetically all of these characters at level 99 to 120-ish, I don't think this team is going to be like that good. The thing is though, is that with the disruptors of Usopp and Lilith and Nami and Karina, these two characters together allow the Caesar, the Dragon, the Sabo Koala to land. Sabo Koala, very underrated I think at the moment, because this character in Pirate Rumble hits like an absolute truck, and synergizing really well with Dragon, because Dragon has the ability to like reduce the enemy's cooldown, again going into more debuffing with Nami, Karina, and Usopp and Lilith, but also having that ability to haste the Revolutionary Army character on your team to the top of the order, putting them to the top, and then they just blast away opponents, especially when you partner that up with Caesar Clown, who can consistently lower the enemy's defenses, which allows Sabo and Koala just to steamroll the opponent. So this is a really scary team. If you have Dragon at level 150, it is disgusting how good this team can be, but I wouldn't say it's perfect. As I said, the defenses are a little bit of a problem with this squad, and another thing is that Cerebral don't have like the best Rumble Rare recruits. Like, look at this bench. Inazuma is fantastic. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly what Jinbei and Saul actually do, but I do know that Inazuma, I have this guy, he's a beast. He actually hits really, really hard. Let's move on a little bit further down. So now we're getting to the tier below that. So they consider these to be the 3 best teams in the game. They're definitely up there. These teams are scary, and I hate going against either of these teams. So we've got the strength team. I love using this team. I don't own Pika, but I use a very similar team to this. No Kobe, so they've replaced the Kobe with having a more disruptive approach, which I think makes a lot of sense because, as we've kind of discussed, having ways to stop your opponent from doing things, it just helps. Like, and this guy, he provides a lot of debuffs to the opponents to allow your other characters hit really hard. I don't know if this is a better build compared to putting like Kobe on the team. Obviously, you can go over to here and have a look at different compositions for these same squads. So let's say you have a Cerebral team, but you don't have Caesar Clown. You could still go over here and see what kind of, what replacements you could use instead of him, for example, right? We've got this in focus team here. I see a lot of people go towards this team. This team is pretty solid overall. Sabo is really good. Roger, Rayleigh, Gaban, I think that they are still relatively okay. The problem is that they only really start to get their stride when they have really low HP. So getting to that threshold could be annoying, but having the combination of Yamato and Roger, Rayleigh, Gaban is really solid, because whenever they fall to 0, they immediately launch their special, and then both of those specials are incredibly strong. You got Disruption here with the waifus. You've got S-Hawk, which we all know how good he is, and int characters, they've got really, really good Rumble Rare recruits, so I think that's pretty solid. This side team focusing on Marines with Kizaru is really strong, despite the fact that Kizaru is predominantly focused on buffing Dex units. You do have to remember he does give buffs to, I think it's like Navy or World Government, I don't remember off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure it's Navy, which is overall really strong because him using his specials so quickly can consistently give charge to the Akainu, to the Garp, and when these guys launch their special, they hit like a truck. You got Disruption with Nami, and also Luffy, Zora, and Sanji are another really strong character that can also provide further buffs to Straw Hat focused characters, which obviously Nami provides. We've got the 5 Elder team. I think a lot of people probably agree this is definitely one of the coolest teams in the game. This team hits really, really hard. You've got a lot of good things going on here. I love using this team. It's not the best team in the game. I think that this is appropriately rated right now. This Driven 5 Elder team, it's nowhere near like top 3 best team in the game, but this, like, hypothetically, let's say like you're a casual player, you don't really have a lot of characters to use, but you for some reason have all of the 5 elders, this team is going to hold you in good stead going up against almost anything. The only real problem is this team is very prone to being debuffed. So if the enemy inflicts confusion, special bind, action bind on your team, it kind of sucks. This team starts to get going when they can start launching their specials and they kind of just steamroll with debuffing with Peter. You got this guy who hits really hard. You've got Mars for support, and then you got Saturn, which can special bind the opponent, allowing you to get back into the game. And then of course you're kind of just going towards getting Nushiro to launch his special, who can hit really hard. But of course the fact that you are running the 5 legends on one team, the obvious drawback to that is that you don't have cost to run a really good bench. So you kind of just stuck with running a Rumble Rare recruit most of the time. I mean, Pika makes sense because of Driven. You can run S-Snake, which I know a lot of people were using. one of those units is probably the best case for this team. Then we got this really random one, Happy Free Friends for Free Spirit. I have never seen this team built. I've never gone up against this team. I've never seen this team being built. I don't really know if it would work really well, but the combination here of Dragon and Sabo Koala, those two units together on a team, it's so good, because as long as you don't run like any other like Rev Army focus units, when Dragon launches his special, he is going to haste this unit, and this unit hits really, really hard. So as for the rest of the units though, you've got the Luffy, Roger Rayleigh Gaban with investments, especially at 150 is a beast, Avalo Pizarro, another character that I don't own but I know is very, very good, and then Free Spirit have some pretty solid bench units, and then you got like the Psy Egghead focus team here, which of course very similar to the Psy Navy team. I do like the Navy team a little bit better. It is a stronger team overall, but this team is still really solid because Wano Law giving straight debuffs all the time to Driven and Powerhouse can allow this team to succeed where normally it really wouldn't. We've got a striker focused team. Strikers for a moment there were getting really good. I just think that they are still lacking some other strong units, but this Lilith and Vega Force Rumble Rare Recruit, if you have this, it's one of the best Rumble Rare Recruits in the game, just in terms of pure offense. Roger Rayleigh Gaban, we already talked about them. Saturn works really well. The Rocks Pirates are still solid. Mr. Zero Missile Sunday, very underrated legend, extremely good in Pirate Rumble. They are disruptive, so definitely watch out for them. Like, don't underestimate them is what I'm saying. And then a pretty good bench overall. The Dex team, I love the Dex team. Of course, I don't have Caesar Clown. Definitely replace that with something else. But like even characters like Legend Rob Lucci, you've got even Big Mom if you still need to use that. I mean, some people are still using V1 Blackbeard. Hey, do what you need to do. But remember, if you are using Ace, you probably want to run a Garp, a Luffy, or a Sabo somewhere on your team so that Ace's Rumble ability can give you special CT for the whole squad. I definitely miss out on doing that quite a lot because I just completely, evade that out of my mind. You do need to have a Garp, a Sabo, or a Luffy on your team for his Rumble ability to become completely activated. And now we get to the point where we are falling off into these teams are very solid. They're going to beat like a random mishmash of teams for sure, but they're not as good as the teams above it. So Slashers have definitely fallen off. I still use this team. Like if I see a team and I know it's like just a free win, this is typically what I use because it just performs relatively well. It's just extremely solid, and it hits really hard, and it's got good bulk with Shanks and Zoro Sanji. These two characters provide pretty good bulk, and the team just can work through teams pretty fast, honestly. I like the Slashers. They're still pretty solid. So this is a strength shooter focused team. I haven't built this team. I don't have the Suru, but this team looks okay, I guess. Again, like these are not going to be the best teams in the game. You got the Straw Hat Slashers. I remember when Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji first dropped, people were building around this team, and like this team, again, just it's okay. Strength Free Spirit, I have built this team in the past. This team is like, again, just okay. You got Strength Slashers. The other Slasher team is better, but this team is okay. You got the Int Cerebral with all the Vegapunks. They really tried to make the Vegapunks work, but they're kind of mid, honestly. They just don't really work. Marine Shooters, this team's okay, again. And then, you kind of fall off into, like, where they're just running the less powerful units, obviously. So, shout out to this team, though. This is, like, the old-school, quick-driven team that, I mean, obviously, you got, like, this is not really, like, an old character or anything, but the old-school squad of, like, Akainu, Kaido, Shiryu. Shout out to my man, Magellan. Where's Rumble Rare Recruit Whitebeard at? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's classic old-school, man. And there's Magellan right there. But yeah, then you get to like the lower tier teams. But honestly, this makes a lot of sense. The characters in SS and above, like I would like agree with a lot of these, that these are very solid teams, and I am always scared about going against a lot of these teams. Specifically though, this quick team is extremely strong. This shooter team, very, very scary. This team, you do have to be careful, but there are moments that you can get back into the game. It just is dependent on how the specials land, but and it also depends on how the normal attacks go, because this team doesn't have the greatest defenses. But watch out for Caesar Clown, because he's just a scary, scary unit. Yeah, as we know. So Naruto has also come up with a Rumble character tier list. So this is just talking about like each individual character in a vacuum without thinking about too much else on the outside. If you just read the character's abilities, these characters, you know, they're ranked based on their own solo abilities, and if you have these units, especially the ones near the top, these are the ones you should be building around because they are widely considered to be the best units to build with in Rumble. So you've got the D tier here. I don't really want to spend too much time in the low tier because I'm sure a lot of you guys want to see what's in the higher tiers. So we've got the B tier. There's a lot of characters in B tier, and I mean, some of these are honestly a lot better than B, but you know, it is what it is. But we're going to start things off in the A tier. So let's go ahead and start scrolling up and have a look. So, I mean, Kona's interesting to be here in the A tier. This deck's Yamato, I feel like a lot of these ones in the A tier probably haven't been updated in a while. So these are all the characters in A tier. Monkey D. Luffy falling down into this tier I think makes a little bit of sense because this Int Luffy, he is hard to put on teams because we have so many good Luffys these days. And I feel like the Int team, it probably is better without this Luffy, all things considered, which is kind of scary, honestly. Sugar is a little niche because you're basically only using Sugar if you have a mono quick team that is specifically going against a strength squad. And that is obviously dependent on the other characters that you may have. Like if you have Rumble Legend Weevil, that's going to make your quick team a hell of a lot better and make it more successful against strength squads. But strength is already like a really solid team, so usually you want to try and avoid it if you can. Same with like Apu. Like Apu in a mono int team, if you're specifically building it to go against a Psy focus team, he's very good. Outside of that, probably not too much. Wano Law, again, similar thing. These characters are good in their own teams, but then they get like extra buffs against very specific opponents. And in that regard, like, yeah, Wano Law, very good against Driven and Powerhouse, but outside of that, he's okay. You know what I mean? Let's go ahead and scroll up into the S tier. So these are like some of the better units in the game here. So yeah, these are the ones that like especially S and above, if you have these units, you probably want to build around them in some facet. So like you got characters like Tezora, really good on any driven focus team pretty much. Just CT for everyone is fantastic. Kid, very good for shooter focused teams. He hits like a truck. Shanks, I don't know about Shanks being on here. I mean, he's like okay, but I wouldn't say he's like an S tier. There's definitely characters in the A tier that I would rank higher than Shanks personally. This Mihawk is interesting. He's got some very interesting abilities. I know people have built with him in the past, but you know, it is what it is. Roger and Whitebeard are a very interesting case because this character is very good in Rumble because when they launch that special, most of the time in Rumble, when they launch, they are going to kill two things with that like 30% health cut and then target two enemies for it's like a huge amounts of damage or defense. The problem is their Rumble ability is pretty bad. Like their passive doesn't really help out too much. This Zoro, he can hit really hard as well. Don't disrespect this Zoro. Who else do we have here? This Kobe, very good for strength teams. We have the sword characters, very good if you're building that striker focus team, but you have to be very careful to get their full Rumble ability to activate. You need like a Kobe, a Drake, a Garb. You know, you need one of the sword like navy focused characters in order for their ability to fully activate. This is probably one of the better cerebral characters of the game, Inazuma. Smoothie, Rumble Legend, phenomenal character for quick focus teams. Figureland Garling hits like a truck, but I think he only hits like one enemy. So, like, he's very good single target. So, we're talking about, like, Assault Rumble, for example. Very good in Assault Rumble if you're only up against, like, one enemy. One of the better units against that. Shanks, very good for a lot of teams, actually, if you can fit him in there. Really good supporter role character. We talked about Lilith and the Vega Force before. Really hard-hitting Rumble Rare Recruit. Same with Sabo and Koala. Very good legend overall. Rocks Pirates hit hard. Weevil, very good Rumble Legend. Pell, one of the best aged Rumble Rare Recruits of all time. Let's go ahead and move on up. So this is going to be the SS tier, and there is one more tier above this, and this is where things get like this is where like the meta is right now. These are the best Rumble characters in the game. You've got Oiran Yamato, always annoying to go up against. You got the two Utas, both of these characters for their respective typings, very good. We know Ace is strong. Hancock hits like a truck. Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, they can be tricky to build with because they count as, you know, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji all together, but they do work very well. Nustro hits like a truck. Kaido is a beast. We already know that. Roger Rayleigh Gaban with investments can be scary. Garp hits like a truck. Disruptive units, Nami Karina, 3-sword style Nami, the waifus, Katakuri Big Mom, Peter, S-Bear, S-Snake, Blackbeard, Pizarro, all of those units that I just mentioned, very disruptive units. They give you a very big advantage. And then you got Kizaru, which is more of a supporter role character, but, you know, depending on the situation, he can actually hit pretty hard as well. Dragon, good support role character. Mars, good support role character. There's some good ass units in here. And then if we scroll on up, this is like the tippity top. This is the cream of the crop. If you have these characters in the top tier, you want to build around them. Usopp and Lilith is a very accessible unit that's available in like basically every red ticket, and they are a phenomenal addition to shooter and cerebral focused teams. Now, I wouldn't say like if you have Usopp and Lilith, it's going to immediately make your life a whole lot easier. You definitely need units around them. You need the hard hitting units, but Usopp and Lilith are a very good addition to a lot of teams. S-Hawk, a 20 cost character that goes into a lot of teams that can just like hit really hard by himself. You've got Pika and S-Snake. These are two of the most disruptive Rumble legends in the game. And then you've got some very hard-hitting units in Quick Luffy, Strength Luffy, which we already know how good he is. Kuma, Rumble legend, one of the best Rumble like aged units in the game, and then Luffy and Lucci, which is one of the sole reasons why shooters are as good as what they are, because this character hits like a truck. So I think that this is a pretty decent look at the characters to be looking at to build teams around. And this is also something I wanted to bring up in regards to using the Rumble level limit break rainbow key. The thing is a lot of people are asking that question, you know, what should I use my key on? You're probably wanting to use it on characters that get a really nice buff to their special CT. So characters that are very disruptive can be very good for that, but also characters that hit really hard. If they've got a lower CT, they're going to launch faster. But the other thing you have to remember, when a character gets a Rumble limit break, they also get enhanced stats. They get defense, they get HP, they get attack, which means that these hard-hitting units like this Luffy, Luffy Lucci, Kuma, Quick Luffy, even S-Hawk, these characters are going to be hitting way harder if you can Rumble limit break them. But it is depending on how many keys you have, how much you're willing to invest. And another thing to note is that versus characters like versus Kaido, when you use a Rumble limit break key, you're not only buffing this unit, but you're also buffing the other side of that dual unit. So the Quick Luffy, which I may have overlooked somewhere on this list, he's probably down here somewhere, but that Quick Luffy, he also gets a buff, and I don't think that Quick Luffy is that low. I might have missed him, or he's probably on the list, and I just don't see him. He's right here, top of B tier. This Luffy, he can still be a very great asset to your quick focus teams. So the fact that, you know, both Kaido and Luffy both receive the buff, that's probably where the most value is. But also you got to think, like, which characters are you using on the most amount of teams? So characters like Luffy, Lucci, you're only using them on a shooter team. You're only using this Luffy on a strength team. Kuma can go on lots of teams. You're predominantly using him for quick or powerhouse focused teams. S-Snake can go in a lot of teams. Pika can go in a lot of teams. Usually Usopp and Lilith are for shooter and cerebral, but you also have S-Hawk, who's really good for basically anything because he is somewhat self-sufficient and can hit really hard by himself. So that's another component that you have to keep in mind. Personally, what I'm doing is I'm just going to be saving my key until I absolutely want to buff something. But as for right now, I'm just going to be conserving my keys. There isn't really much of a reason to do it unless if like you're really scared about a grand party matchup or you really want to just inch at every bit of points you can from Assault Rumble. But then again, I think it's probably better to conserve them for now. So another thing is that Grand Party is a very, very important thing to be building around because you get a lot of rewards for just completing it. And if you're able to secure those 15 wins, it's going to be nice for you. So here is a tier list that they've also created for Grand Party leaders. Now, I would pretty much agree with this one in terms of the leaders here. All these characters in the top row are phenomenal. Specifically Kizaru, whenever Kizaru is like buffed during the season, he is just the go-to guy because of the fact that not only does he do a ton of damage, but the debuffs that he is applying, the guaranteed special bind, action bind, paralysis, it just makes it so that when you launch Kizaru, you literally stop the opponent from doing anything, especially with the amount of characters that you can potentially action bind. By action binding the opponent, it puts your characters to the top of the order so they can immediately start launching some specials. So Kizaru is an absolute beast, no-brainer. Nustro, when he launches, everything dies. He's special. His Grand Party burst skill is disgusting. But again, it depends on your team's setup and everything. He can be a little difficult to launch at times, but when he does launch, everything dies pretty much. Kaido is a super annoying character to go up against. Like, just in terms of me going against it, I hate going against Kaido, but I don't particularly like using Kaido that much, because I feel like whenever the opponent uses Kaido, I feel like they always use the burst skill of Kaido in like the worst possible scenario for me. But then when I use it, I never get the full benefit out of it. So I don't know. I think Kaido is very good. He's definitely one of the top in the game. Just very frustrating to go against. Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, and Quick Luffy, both of which are phenomenal. I do like Quick Luffy a lot. He hits hard, he can give special charge, and he can also prevent your characters from being CT delayed, which is also very, very big. So you could use it defensively, where if you're up against like a Nami Karina 3-sword style Nami, and you know you're about to be delayed, you can pop it, do a ton of damage, and then prevent that delay so that your specials can still launch, and then you can get that victory. So I like that Quick Luffy can be used offensively and kind of like in a utility sense. Now, if you don't have any of the top row, it's not the end of the world, because a lot of the characters below them are still really good. You know, Side Gear 5 Luffy is still a phenomenal character if you can build a team in a way where you can output a ton of damage really quickly to get that burst skill to launch. When you launch that burst skill, especially with investments at like 150, everything dies. It's just as simple as that. Int Luffy is still solid. Quick Luffy is still very good. Personally, I haven't particularly used like Wipe It and Ace too much. I haven't used this Shanks too much. I haven't used Oiran Yamato too much as a GP leader. Obviously, there's a lot of bad GP leaders, but definitely these ones in the first top 2 tiers, these are the ones you want to be looking out for. Also really cool here that they got a little bit of a breakdown in regards to recommended characters in terms of this current season that is actually up right now, and they give you a bit of a breakdown in terms of like what gets buffed and everything. They also give you a little bit of like a generated team, like, hey, this is probably the best way to go about it, because it allows you to get like the most amount of buffs possible whilst also using like the best possible team. So I think this is a pretty fair way to go about it if you have the applicable characters, of course. And of course, it gives you a breakdown in regards to how many refreshes and retries you have if you are worried about that. And they also have some suggested recommended grand party teams. So let's say hypothetically you have the Int Gear 5 Luffy and you want to build around him. This is like the best way to build him, or one of the better ways to build him, with a full breakdown of how it works. If you have Dex Kaido, this is a particular team that you can build that allows you to make the most out of Kaido's benefits. So I really like this. This is a really great resource, honestly, for a lot of players. You should definitely be using this resource to your advantage to help you get a little bit better in Pirate Rumble. But that is going to wrap it up for me for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Definitely go ahead and give this some love to Naito, who's been an absolute homie in continuously updating this this spreadsheet here. But I hope you enjoyed the video today, given my little breakdown overview of his resources. But thank you very much for watching. Shout out to Naito once again. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. I'm that, guys. I'll see you guys within the next video.